the same principle applies in flint knapping, except in flint knapping you're hitting a rock and you're exceeding the elastic limits of that rock to produce this cone. So as through the several million years of human progression in producing stone tools, the humans became more and more proficient in changing the angle of the blow and so on, so they were distorting the cone from a disc to an ellipse or to an oval. So as you remove flakes, then you remove and perfect the different types of blades and flakes that are removed from the piece. These blades that are produced by a very specialized technique of what we call enhanced pressure, and the enhanced pressure is achieved through the use of a punch, a chest punch, and actually we have in the exhibit a replica of a chest punch as well as a core that has been prepared so that the flint knapper then positions the punch exactly where they want it, and by loading pressure downward and then pulling outward, you're able to produce these blades which end up being broken on a single molecule of thickness on the edge. These are the sharpest thing that humans have been able to produce. These are about 100 times sharper than modern surgical steel scalpels. In the long stretch of the reduction of stone by humans, you go from making blades that are taken off by direct percussion, striking one piece of rock with another piece of rock. Added into that, we pick up somewhere probably at least by 100,000 years ago, the addition of what are billets, which would be made out of elk antler or heavy antler, which delivers the force differently into a rock. And then ultimately we get some of these indirect methods of taking blades off by using pressure flaking and also in percussion flaking. So that the idea is that you go from flakes to being predictably able to make blades. Blades are by definition longer than they are wide, and they have sharper and sharper edges. So that when you come down to making these prismatic blades by chest punch, and this particular set of techniques was perfected by the Mayan people about 2,500 years ago in Mesoamerica. These produce a type of tool which is the ultimate sharpness in a cutting edge. We also, in the stone tools that we have on exhibit, briefly show some of the ground stone tools here, because ground stone, you're not flaking it. In this case, you're actually creating the shape of the tool by battering one rock against another, creating something like this grooved in this heavy maul, and then grinding it to shape it even further. So these are done with percussion by first beating the piece, doing a whole set of very fine overlapping cones of percussion, and when you get this groove created, you then finish it by grinding it with water and sand. So these tools represent an addition to the human toolkit. These come in only about the time of the advent of the beginning of settled village cultures around 10,000 years ago. This particular collection here are ground stone artifacts that date back about 1,000 years before present. Just the final piece that I'd comment in our current exhibit is our modern flint knapper here working on reducing a piece for a biface. And what we've done is exhibited some of the tools that are used. You've got the elk antler billets, in other words, which is what he's holding on to one of. We have hammerstones. The piece by Bruce is showing that you grind the edges to prepare the points at which you strike the rock. One of the things that I would just call everyone's attention to in this mannequin that was set up is that we have him wearing a set of goggles. Whenever you do flint knapping, it is really a very dangerous activity. The flakes that come off this rock are lethally sharp, And whenever any of us do flint knapping, usually by the time we're done with our day's activity, we have all kinds of little nicks and cuts, but they're flakes that are little tiny microflakes flying, and to protect one's eyes, you really must wear some kind of eye shield or eye protection. I think that this then sort of concludes our discussion of the human journey, an immense journey that has given us the sense that human cultural systems emerge over time. A significant component of what we are today is deeply tied to our capacity as tool-making individuals. Tool-making, tool-using. The other part of the complex is that we became an individual capable of creating symbols, in other words, creating a language. So we alone, of all organisms through time and space, we alone as humans are time released. We contemplate and talk about the past. We contemplate and talk about the future. We live in the present. All other organisms are frozen in the present. So this is a story about this absolutely immensely unique creature, ourselves, and how tools literally have shaped not only our body structure, our biology, but have shaped human culture. I'm Dr. Adrian Hannes, Professor of Anthropology at Augustana College. Thank you very much.